Imagine this: you're standing across from a woman you've given your time, your attention, maybe even your heart. You've bent yourself to fit her moods, tolerated her distance, explained away her cold silences. You've stayed when she tested you, begged when she withdrew, pleaded for her to see your worth. But the more you chase, the less she sees you. The more you sacrifice, the cheaper your presence becomes. And one day, with a calmness you didn't expect, she says the words that cut through everything: "I don't respect you anymore." That's the truth most men never prepare for, not the loss of her love, but the loss of her respect. Nietzsche once wrote that the strongest act of the will is not conquest but refusal, the ability to deny, to walk away. You think women want the man who stays no matter what, the man who clings until the bitter end. They don't. Deep down, every woman tests to see if you have the power to walk. If you don't, she'll never feel safe with you because she knows she can control you. Respect dies the moment she realizes you'll trade your dignity for her approval. Think of the times you felt that sting when she ignored your messages, and instead of matching her silence, you sent 3 more texts. When she flirted with other men in front of you, and you laughed it off, pretending you didn't care, while your stomach turned. When she threatened to leave, and you begged, "Please, don't go." Every one of those moments carved a piece out of your authority, and she felt it. She saw you shrinking while she tested the borders of your strength. Walking away isn't about punishment. It isn't a manipulation of your own. It's proof. Proof to yourself that you won't be enslaved by her approval, and proof to her that you're not afraid of loss. That's the paradox. The man who needs her least is the man she respects most, because he's not standing there like a starving dog waiting for scraps of affection. He's already whole, already fed, already dangerous enough to leave if the terms insult his value. Here's where most men fail. You confuse attachment with loyalty. Loyalty is built on mutual respect. Attachment is built on fear of loss. And when you operate from fear, you'll endure things no self-respecting man should: manipulation, neglect, humiliation. Women sense that weakness instantly. It's not that she hates you for it. It's that her instincts won't allow her to honor a man who dishonors himself. You've probably seen it: the guy who's endlessly available, waiting at her door, fixing every crisis, covering every bill, absorbing every insult. She doesn't thank him, she resents him. Compare that with the man who, the moment she crosses a line, calmly pulls back his energy, his presence, his touch. He doesn't explode, he doesn't beg, he just leaves the table. That man haunts her thoughts, because in that moment, he becomes bigger than her whims. He becomes a standard she can't move. The tactics are simple, but they require steel. If she withholds attention to bait you into chasing, don't chase. Match her withdrawal with indifference. If she disrespects you with words or actions, state your boundary once, then disengage. If she flirts with manipulation, don't argue, don't lecture, don't justify. Just stop giving her the part of you she's taking for granted. And if she ever makes you choose between your self-respect and her approval, you choose your self-respect. Every single time. It will feel brutal at first. The silence after you walk away is suffocating. You'll question if you made the right call, if you're being too harsh, if maybe you should go back and try again. But understand this, that silence is where your strength is forged. That's the space where she recalibrates. Some women will vanish, proving they were never there for you in the first place. Others will return, changed, because they realize you're not another man to bend. Either way, you win, because you refuse to betray yourself. The respect of a woman isn't won by giving more, but by being willing to lose her if she forces you to. Nietzsche's lesson is this: the will to power is not about dominating others, but about mastering yourself. The man who walks away is not cruel. He is free. Have you ever recognized yourself in this exact situation? What happened next? Which one of these toxic behaviors have you faced before? Be specific in the comments. What's the hardest part of walking away when you know she's manipulating you? Some women won't tell you outright what they're testing for, but they'll create situations designed to expose your weakness. A delayed text reply, a sarcastic remark, an intentional withdrawal of affection. It looks small on the surface, but it's a probe. She's watching how you react. Do you collapse into panic and double your effort to win her back? Or do you stay composed, showing that your center isn't dependent on her behavior? The difference between those two reactions is the difference between respect and contempt. You've probably experienced that sickening cycle where you feel like you're auditioning for her approval. She takes longer to reply, so you start over-explaining yourself, filling the silence with nervous words. She pulls back, so you lean in harder, buying her gifts, planning outings, giving her more access. And yet, the more you give, the less she values it. Why? Because your actions reveal desperation. They show that you fear her absence more than you value your dignity. That's not love. That's emotional dependence dressed up as devotion. Here's the psychological trap: women instinctively respect men who hold back, not men who overgive. It doesn't mean you should be cold or unkind. It means that your generosity must come from choice, not fear. If you can't say no to her without guilt, then your yes means nothing. And deep down, she knows it. That's why she pushes. Not because she enjoys cruelty, but because she needs to know where the edge of your strength really is. Think of the guy who says, "I don't mind waiting," when she cancels on him for the third time. He thinks he's being patient. In her mind, he's proving he has no spine. Now imagine the man who calmly says, "If your time is elsewhere, I'll put mine elsewhere too." No anger, no dramatics, just clarity. That man becomes the one she remembers, because he signaled he won't live on crumbs. You have to understand something most men never hear: women crave polarity. They can't respect a man who acts like her servant, because he's refusing the role of counterpart. She needs to feel your refusal, your boundary, your line in the sand, because it tells her you're real. You're not molding yourself to her mood, you're anchored in who you are. Nietzsche would call this the strength of the sovereign individual, the man who writes his own law instead of begging for another's permission. Strategically, this means you stop rewarding manipulation. If she threatens to leave, you don't beg. You tell her calmly, that's your choice. If she withholds affection, you don't chase. You mirror her energy and redirect your focus. If she tries to provoke jealousy, you don't explode or compete. You disengage, showing that your value isn't up for auction. These responses aren't games. They are demonstrations of self-possession. And the moment you stop giving her the reaction she expects, you break the cycle of control. Of course, the cost is real. Walking away, even momentarily, demands that you face your deepest fear: being alone. That's why so many men fail this test. You'd rather tolerate disrespect than face silence. You'd rather keep her half-hearted attention than risk the emptiness of separation. But here's the truth: that emptiness is not your enemy. It's your proving ground. The man who can sit in his own silence without begging for company is the man who commands respect when he does return. You've probably seen relationships where the dynamic flipped completely after a man finally pulled back. She mocked him for months, dismissed his needs, tested him relentlessly. But the day he stopped playing, along the day he withdrew his attention and stopped explaining himself, she came running back, suddenly attentive, suddenly sweet. That wasn't magic. It was biology and psychology colliding. She realized she'd lost her grip, and with it, her respect turned into attraction again. But here's the catch: you don't walk away to lure her back. If that's your motive, she'll sense it and the power is gone. You walk away because your boundary is non-negotiable. You do it because you value yourself more than the illusion of connection. That authenticity is what shakes her, because most men can't do it. Most men crumble, and the few who don't, those are the men she never forgets. So ask yourself right now, where are you giving too much just to avoid conflict? Where are you tolerating disrespect because you're afraid she'll leave? And what would change if, instead of chasing, you stood still and let her feel the weight of your absence? Have you ever been in that moment where you knew you should walk away, but you stayed anyway? How did it end? When was the last time you said enough and meant it? And what's scarier for you personally, losing her or losing your own self-respect? You've heard the saying, nice guys finish last. What most men miss is why. It's not because kindness is weak. It's because their kindness is rooted in fear. A woman can sense when your niceness is a mask for insecurity, when you smile while she disrespects you, when you agree to things you don't want, when you swallow your frustration instead of speaking up. That's not kindness. It's cowardice dressed as virtue. And women don't respect cowards. Respect comes from friction, from the resistance you're willing to give when something doesn't sit right with you. If you're always agreeable, you're not a partner. You're a mirror reflecting back whatever she wants to see. And mirrors are boring. She doesn't want to look at herself forever. She wants to feel the presence of a man who's unshaken, even if it means clashing with her. That's why she'll argue with you, challenge you, even provoke you, because she needs to feel where your edges are. Without those edges, she feels like she's floating in a void, and her attraction dies. Here's the irony: the men who fear conflict the most are the ones who create the most tension, because every time you dodge confrontation, resentment builds. You pretend to be okay, but your silence becomes heavy. She feels it anyway, and it makes her uneasy. Now compare that to the man who looks her in the eye and says calmly, "That doesn't work for me." Clear, direct, unapologetic. He may face an argument in the moment, but afterward, there's relief, because she knows where he stands, and more importantly, he knows where he stands. Nietzsche would call this a will to power not over her, but over yourself. The discipline to honor your instincts without folding to please someone else. That's what makes you magnetic. A woman may say she wants total agreement, constant support, unconditional validation, but watch her actions. She's drawn to the man who can disappoint her without apologizing, who can say no without flinching, who can walk away from her storms without trying to fix them, because that man doesn't orbit around her moods. He lives in his own gravity. In practice, this means you need to examine your behaviors with brutal honesty. Do you text her the moment she pulls back, hoping to patch the hole with reassurance? Stop. Let the silence sit. Do you let her get away with cancelling plans last minute, over and over? Stop. Tell her clearly. My time matters too. Do you endure cutting remarks, thinking it's better not to make a scene? Stop. Call it out once. Directly, I don't tolerate disrespect. And then, if it continues, you disengage. Not to punish, not to manipulate, but because you refuse to be where your value isn't seen. Understand this: your willingness to leave is the foundation of her respect. If you can't leave, she knows she controls you. If you can, she knows she has to earn you. That difference shapes the entire relationship. Without that power, you'll always be negotiating from weakness, trying to convince her to love you. With it, you'll stand on equal ground, and her respect will grow naturally. The hardest part is emotional conditioning. From childhood, you've been taught that being good means being compliant, agreeable, self-sacrificing. But relationships don't reward compliance. They reward strength, not brute force, not aggression, but the quiet, immovable strength of a man who refuses to betray himself. That's why walking away is so powerful. It's the ultimate expression of self-loyalty. You're telling the world, I won't abandon myself for anyone. You'll notice something strange when you start living this way. Some women will vanish because they were never truly invested. They were just feeding off your compliance. Others will rise, meeting your strength with their own, because they crave a man who forces them to bring their best. And you'll stop fearing loss. You'll stop clinging to situations that drain you. You'll realize that every time you walk away from disrespect, you're not losing a woman, you're gaining yourself. So I'll ask you directly, where in your life are you being nice when what you really feel is anger? When was the last time you bit your tongue to avoid rocking the boat? And how would things change if you stopped fearing her disapproval more than you feared your own regret? Think back to the moments when you felt trapped in a woman's orbit, doing everything you could to keep her attention, only to watch it slip further away. That sinking feeling in your chest. The sleepless nights replaying her words. The desperate urge to fix what was never broken on your side. Those moments leave scars. You thought persistence would prove your love, but all it proved was that you were willing to trade yourself away piece by piece just to avoid being alone. This is the hidden cost most men never see until it's too late. Every time you beg, every time you compromise past your own limits, every time you tolerate behavior that gnaws at your self-respect, you chip away at your own identity. And when the dust settles, you barely recognize yourself. You've become a version of you that exists only for her approval. And the cruelest irony is that she doesn't even want it. She can't respect what she controls. She might keep you around, but she'll never look at you with desire in her eyes. Nietzsche warned about this kind of self-betrayal. He said that when you bow to another's will out of weakness, you kill your own spirit. The will to power begins with refusing to be broken by someone else's expectations. And in dating, that means having the strength to let go when she treats you like you're disposable. Because if you can't let go, you'll always be disposable. Here's how this plays out in the real world. She cancels plans last minute, and you tell yourself, it's fine, she's busy. She flirts with another guy in front of you, and you laugh it off, pretending you're above jealousy. She criticizes you harshly, and you swallow your pride, thinking silence will keep the peace. But inside, your respect for yourself erodes, and once you stop respecting yourself, don't expect her to carry the weight for you. She won't. Now imagine the opposite. She cancels last minute, and you calmly say, my time is valuable. Let me know when you're serious. She flirts to get a reaction, and you don't compete. Don't sulk, you simply disengage, making it clear you're not in the game. She throws disrespect, and you stop her once. That doesn't work for me. If she continues, you don't debate, you walk. That's it. No raised voice, no drama, no begging, just the quiet removal of yourself. That's when she feels it. That's when the gravity shifts. The man who walks away forces her to confront her own behavior, without your energy to push against. She has to sit in the emptiness she created. Maybe she realizes what she lost and changes. Maybe she doesn't, and the connection dies. Either way, you come out clean because you refuse to dirty your hands clinging to someone who treated you like an option. Most men don't believe they can do this because they've built their whole identity on being chosen. You've been trained to think your value as a man depends on whether she wants you. That's the real lie. Your value is not up for negotiation. It's not something she can give or take away. But you'll never see that until you prove it to yourself by walking away when everything inside you screams to stay. The paradox is brutal but liberating. The less you need her, the more she respects you. Not because you're cold, but because you're free. A man who is willing to lose her is a man she can never fully control. And that's the kind of man who triggers both her respect and her desire. So let me put this in your lap. What's the cost of staying silent in a relationship where you're disrespected? What parts of yourself have you already sacrificed just to keep her close? And if you were to draw one line today, a line you will not allow anyone to cross, what would it be? There's a reason the image of the man who walks away lingers in a woman's mind long after he's gone. It's not his words, not his promises, not even the history they shared. It's the silence, the finality, the unshakable message that says, I would rather lose you than lose myself. That silence echoes louder than any begging or pleading ever could. It pierces deeper than any sweet talk, because it shows her the one thing most men cannot offer: the absence of need. When you walk away, you're not just leaving her, you're leaving the version of yourself that tolerated too much, gave too much, lost too much. You're stepping into a harder but cleaner reality, one where you're not dependent on her approval to define your worth. Nietzsche would call this the birth of a higher self. You shed the skin of the compliant man and become the man who commands respect simply by refusing to kneel. Understand this clearly: women don't respect the man who gives endlessly without boundary, because his giving comes from fear. They don't respect the man who argues and shouts, because his anger exposes his dependence. They respect the man who can cut the cord in silence, who can walk away without explanation, because that man is untouchable. He's free. He's dangerous. He cannot be owned. The battlefield of modern dating isn't about who loves more. It's about who betrays themselves less. Every manipulative game she plays, every withdrawal, every test, is built on one assumption: that you will break before she does. Most men do. They text first. They explain. They apologize for things they didn't even do. But the man who doesn't break, the man who disappears when disrespected, destroys the entire game. He removes the fuel. He rewrites the script. You'll notice that the men women speak about with lingering intensity are rarely the ones who stayed no matter what. They're the ones who vanished when respect was gone. The ones who left her with unanswered questions, with the sharp memory of a man she couldn't bend. That's not cruelty. That's strength. That's the kind of strength that forces her to confront herself, to elevate her own behavior, to recognize she can't play with every man the same way. The strategic lesson is simple but ruthless. Never let your fear of losing her outweigh your fear of losing yourself. If she pulls back, don't chase. If she disrespects you, don't argue, withdraw. If she forces a choice between her approval and your dignity, you choose dignity every time. That's not stubbornness, that's survival. Because once you give that up, you'll never get it back. Yes, it's lonely at first. Yes, the silence will sting. But that sting is the cost of freedom. And on the other side of that silence, you'll find something no woman can hand you: the respect you give yourself. Once you've tasted that, you'll never beg again. You'll never tolerate what you used to. And the women who enter your life will feel it immediately. They'll sense that you are not a man who can be toyed with. They'll know they are either meeting you as equals, or they won't meet you at all. So let me leave you with this: she didn't break you. She revealed what you were too afraid to protect. And now, you have a choice. You can keep repeating the cycle, clinging, begging, losing pieces of yourself until there's nothing left. Or you can walk away, not just from her, but from every version of you that thought approval was the same as love. The man who walks away isn't heartless. He's whole, and wholeness is the one thing she can't give you, the one thing she'll always respect, the one thing that makes you unforgettable.